I'm going to share with you how I overcame anxiety during grief. Now, grief has so many different responses. I've been through grief so many times in life, and I've went through isolation where I wanted to just be all by myself, and then there was points of rumination, where it's that time when you kind of figure out, well, what if such and such would have happened, and maybe they wouldn't have left or they wouldn't have experienced that, and I would still have them in my life. That's rumination. But one particular time, I actually experienced anxiety. And that's why I want to share with you how I actually got through that point. It was something that really threw me for a loop because I had never, ever experienced anxiety before. And all of a sudden, it was like I couldn't even sleep. I mean, really, my wife, I almost felt like a child because my wife was turning off the light in our bedroom. And I was almost like begging her to keep the lights on because I was afraid of anxiety. I would get up in the middle of the night and I would walk around downstairs just so I could keep myself awake so I wouldn't have to face it. And my experience with anxiety was my heart was just beating uncontrollably out of my chest. It's almost like I couldn't even catch my breath. And I didn't even know why I was having this experience. There was a time when I was on an airplane, and because I was in the seat and kind of like confined, I just felt my heart just beating and beating and beating. I had to get up and like walk up and down the aisles. I thought I was gonna get kicked off the plane or something was gonna happen because I was just walking up and down the aisles because it was that thing with confinement for me. There was even a time where I was just sitting in a dentist's office and they had just said the words like, okay, don't move. And for some reason for me, that triggered a response to me where I was immediately feeling, okay, I was confined. I couldn't do anything. And then my heart just starts beating and beating and beating and beating. And it's like I couldn't even catch my breath. So I didn't actually know where this was coming from. It's just totally brand new to me. And it's like almost like fighting an unknown enemy without knowing where it was from. I didn't know, like, how can I stop this thing? And it wasn't until my wife actually asked me some questions. And then I realized that it started as a result of my dear friend, my brother, that he died. And then once I figured that out, then I started to realize, well, this isn't just something physical, but it has to be something actually that's going on mentally. See, so it's really good sometimes to get an outside perspective because things that we see for ourselves, we don't see everything. So by my wife asking me those questions, it allowed me to actually see and to get to the root of the problem. So now when I knew that it was not physical, then I attempted so many different things. I attempted breathing techniques. I remember taking a class where we were learning the different types of breathing, box breathing, all these, and it was really helpful. That was helpful. I'm not gonna say it wasn't helpful. That was helpful, but it didn't completely solve my issue. After that, I did it was like an NLP, neuro linguistic programming therapy, and with colors and things. That also I think was really, really helpful as well too. And it actually went back to some trigger points in my history and kind of seeing how to address it through even my thought processes. So that again was helpful too. But I'm going to say the most helpful thing for me to deal with the anxiety and not just deal with it, but to overcome it was when I heard from, actually, it was the former pastor of ours at the time. He had told me to just actually embrace it. And you see what happened before, everything I was doing was attempting to avoid it or to resist it. And oftentimes when we try to avoid something, it actually gives it more energy, it gives it more power. It makes it more, we're going to see it, we're going to notice it more. But by embracing it and experiencing it, I actually realized that it wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be. So I had to go through it in order to overcome it. Now I know it doesn't really make sense, but what I did was that night when I was going to sleep, and I had been having it for like several nights straight, and basically I couldn't sleep at all. It was keeping me up at night. But that night when I went to sleep, or attempted to go to sleep, I let my wife know, and she knew, and she was there, and she really kind of just was there for me. She didn't intervene or anything like that because it was something I had to go through for myself. But when I feel my heart start to race, I would just continue to breathe, and that's where the breathing exercise did come in, because I just focused on my breathing, just focused on my breathing, and my heart actually went through the process. It was speed up racing, almost as if I was doing like 1,000 jumping jacks. It was just racing, 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 but I just stayed there and breathed in and out. And for me, I actually counted in breathing. I breathed in like 3 seconds and breathed out 7 seconds, and just kept with that same rhythm of breathing. And I realized that within about 2 minutes of my heart racing and going through the process, that it would get right back down to normal. So now the first time I did it, I went through it, and it's challenging. I'm not saying it's easy. It was very challenging to sit still or to lie still and just feel your heart racing as you're lying in bed. You feel it beating against the pillow and against the bed. But I went through it. And then I was able to relax a little bit. And then guess what? It didn't stop there, because then maybe about 30 minutes later on, then I feel it coming on again. And it goes through the same process again. And each time is challenging, it's difficult, because I still have to focus on my breathing and allow my body to go through it. Don't resist it, don't fight it. Don't get up and try and walk around like I was doing before, but just breathe through it. 3 seconds in, 7 seconds out. That was for me. Those are my numbers. Maybe for you, numbers might be a little bit different. But one thing I learned from breathing is that you definitely want to focus more on the out and let the out be longer, because when the out is longer, then it actually helps to slow down your heart rate. So it passed that second time. And then it wasn't over for the night. I think through that night, I probably went through it maybe about a dozen times, that my heart went through the same process. And, that night, I can't say I got a lot of rest, but I knew that I can get through it. And each one I got through, it made me more confident I can get through the next one. So that night I went through it, didn't get too much rest. The next day still was a little challenged, and then the next night came again, and it was a little bit less. I still had them at nighttime, and I say I went through it probably about 3 nights, but each night got better than the night before. Again, key was focusing on my breath, but allowing myself to go through it, as opposed to what I had been doing before, which was resisting it. So when I used to feel it coming on, I would get up, I would turn on the light, I would walk around, I would sing songs, I would turn on TV, try and distract myself so I wouldn't let it build up. But no, that wasn't actually the best routine. Go through it so that you can get through the other side. So hopefully this experience that I share with you, my experience with grief and dealing with anxiety, will help you through your anxiety, maybe from grief or maybe from something else. Remember, don't resist it, but allow yourself to go through it. And you'll see that this is not the end of the world. I hope this helps you.